Wouldn't you like to be in a real estate market that's up 828% in the last 40 years? Well, folks, we are lucky enough to have the one and only Beth Traverso, top 1% agent in the country and long-term resident of Washington State. So, Beth,
Wow.
828%. Did that shock you? Did it surprise you? Did you
You
guess it?
know, I did kind of. So we were just chatting right before we jumped on this Zoom here that I was listening to the daily financial news this morning. I try to catch it every day. And when you were talking about the top 5 states for appreciation over the last 40 years, I was just doing some real quick mental math of, back in 84, I was just a kid back then, wasn't paying too much attention to real estate prices, didn't know anything, I was
You
busy
didn't
being,
have your
yeah,
license?
I
You
was
didn't have
busy
your
being in
license?
fourth grade or whatever it was back then. I don't know. But but I do remember my parents bought a house just north of Seattle. Um, I think around that time. And I think it was about $75,000 or so they spent on that house, basic starter home. And then now those same houses today are going for around 8 to 900,000. So that kind of tracks with that. And so shocking, yeah, but not super surprising for people that are used to living here in Washington, especially Western Washington. Washington is a big state, and if you go east of the mountains, it's an entirely different thing. Just like California, there's all these other areas, but Western Washington, especially Kings, Snohomish, Pierce County, those key areas. Obviously, the biggest thing that happened since the 80s was Microsoft planting their flag there, and then later on Amazon. We just happen to be in the hometown areas of these two mega entrepreneurs who created industries that changed the world that are right here. So that certainly helped, and then it just drew all the employment. And then you have things like geographic boundaries and political restrictions on building that make it very, very hard to build, and all the people coming here for high paying jobs. Plus, I have to say, it's a gorgeous, I can't imagine a more beautiful place to live for me personally. And enough people agree that it drives the prices up. And we're seeing that this year, even with the higher interest rates. I was just looking at the most recent statistics, and in my area on the east side of King County, we're up almost 20% year over year, just
Wait, wait, wait,
here.
wait. No. Seriously? 20%
Mm-hmm.
year on year.
Yeah, 20% year on year in certain areas. In my specific area, 20% year on year.
King
King
County.
County is up 12%, the whole county, but that's a bigger
Wow.
area with millions of people in it. So
Right. So just so people kind of catch up, King County is what a outside of Washington could call Seattle. That's
yes,
King County. Right.
yes,
So King County is up 12% year on year.
yes. For residential, not including condos,
Right.
just
Okay.
residential. So that's for April 2024.
Yeah,
Yeah.
April. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's funny. It's funny when I heard Washington 828%. It kind of made sense, right? I don't know if you what was Washington known for in 84? Was it agriculture? Like
Boeing.
Boeing.
Boeing was a big deal. One of our nicknames was Jet City, and so there's
Oh
Boeing
yeah,
plants
yeah.
in Everett, which is just north of Seattle, and then Renton, which is just south of Seattle. So those were the big employers back at that time.
Okay.
And before that it was, I guess way back in the day before my time, it was more like timber and things like that.
Okay. Yeah,
So
I
yeah.
didn't know, but yeah. So
Mhm.
in the end, folks, if you are running a state and you want to see some good home appreciation, just find two entrepreneurs that are going to build trillion-dollar companies,
Yeah.
hire a bunch of employees, and bingo, bango, you too can have
I know. We
800%
just lucked out
appreciation.
on that too. Yeah. And we're also a port city, so that has something to do with it also, being
That
in
makes sense.
an area where a lot of commerce comes through. So
Very
um
cool. Well, let's talk about today. So
yeah,
you got the April numbers there. King County again up 12%. What did you break the all-time high? Are you above a million or
we're
what was it up?
tying it. Yeah. So we're tying it at 980. Well, it's just a hair, like 10,000 under the high from May of 2022. And
Wow.
that was when everything hit the brakes, when the rates skyrocketed overnight, hit
Mhm.
the wall, everything went down after that for a while.
Right.
And now we're back up to that, tying that again.
Yeah. So we just completed Memorial Day. I don't, it always ends at different, or spring selling season ends at different parts of the country at different times. Listening to you all these years, it seems like you can now say the spring selling season is done. Sometimes Mother's Day, sometimes Memorial Day, but
Yep.
they are now both passed. So is
Yeah.
that fair to say spring selling season is over in King County?
Yes. Well, I wouldn't know about over, but we're past the tipping point, I would say. And we see that every year. The seasonality goes at, it's the shoot opens right after the January 1st, and buyers are running through there and there's nothing to buy, and the bidding wars ensue. We saw that this year. And then, prices start to push up because something lists, say, for 1 million and then sells for 1.2, and then that's a new comp, and people get into this competitive mindset. There's a lot of psychology around it. And then every year, sometimes as early as Easter, sometimes between around Mother's Day, somewhere in there, I kind of go by those holidays. I've seen like where all of a sudden it just gets a little quieter, and agents start asking in the agent groups like, "Hey, how was your open house activity, or how is your showing activity?" Like, I'm seeing things starting to mellow out a little bit. How's it happening where you are? And then it varies a lot. So the areas that are closest in our areas, that would be, say, like the Bellevue, Redmond, Sammamish areas. We're talking the core areas are still seeing quite a bit of intensity and bidding wars still happening. I track to see how many listings are going pending on the review date. In our area, that's how you track how hot something is. If there's an offer review date and it goes pending and that day or the morning after, then you go, okay, they probably got their offers. They got at least one good offer that day. And you start seeing it go past and they remove the offer review date, then you go, oh, okay, that's a different story. And once buyers start to see that happen more often, then the psychology just flips and they get to be more like, I don't know if we're going to make an offer on that one. Maybe we'll wait and see. And there tends to be a little more hesitancy. And I've seen situations lately where multiple offers were expected, maybe, 5 or 6 offers. So, anticipated on a property, and then only one comes through.
Oh, wow.
Sometimes that one might not even be list price. So when I start seeing that happen, I'm seeing, okay, our seasonality is returning to our normal patterns. It's no shocker. This happens literally every single year. Like, we don't see bidding wars continue throughout the entire year, like a straight line or upward line. It doesn't happen like that ever. So not even in our craziest years. We always see, when we follow the charts, that it's like skyrockets up in the first part of the year and then mellows out in the summer. And again, and then bumps up a little bit in the fall, and then trails off a bit, quite a bit for the holidays. So something I saw this last weekend, being Memorial Day weekend, was it was quiet, like silent almost.
Wow.
So
Okay.
tip to buyers, if you want to get some deals, Memorial Day weekend could, or a similar time like that, could be a good time to do that. In our area, and when it's a holiday, people are just gone. Our weather was not great, but people are still like, they already made their plans. They were out of here. So
Right.
agents and buyers. So
Yeah.
um
So it's
now's your
interesting.
chance.
So,
Yeah.
again, we're still seeing home price appreciation. You're basically back at the peak of 2021, which was the most unhealthy market I had ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was the month where King County averaged 112% of lists. Just stupid.
Yeah.
So we're basically back there.
Mm-hmm.
What are you kind of seeing? Obviously, last weekend was quiet, which we'll chalk up as a holiday weekend. But is it really trending where offer review dates are simply being removed, and we're starting to see inventory build and days on market grow a little bit? Is that happening?
I'm seeing it in certain areas. So there's certain uh so where I am is a little more on the outskirts of King County. Still the same buyer pool. A lot of people work for tech, etc., but it's just a little further out from the core areas, and those areas tend to see it first. And there's certain communities where I'm starting to see more inventory build, where it used to be we'd get maybe 2 or 3 houses a week in those communities that are all kind of right around the median price point, I would say.
Okay.
And people were snatching them up, and bidding wars were driving the price up. And now all it takes in those areas is, like, instead of 2 or 3, to have like 8 listings come on the market. We're still low inventory, folks, so it's like you have 8 instead of 3, all of a sudden those buyers have more to choose from. And some of those offers, some of them aren't going to go pending on the review date. And then those are going to carry over. And I'm starting to see some price drops start to happen on certain properties too.
Wow.
So, and price drops need to be significant to get buyers' attention. It used to be, I would tell my sellers that it would need to be 3% to get someone off the fence potentially, but I think it's even more than that. We're seeing usually bigger price cuts
So
than
let's try to
3.
put some numbers on it. So if you're in and around the median, let's just call it 900.
Mm-hmm.
A 3% price drop is roughly 30 grand. Seems like you're telling me it might need to be more like 50 grand.
Yeah, and I'm talking about more of a higher price point. Like if you've
Oh,
got a
okay.
house, so say your house was listed for like 1.4,
Okay.
and you're competing against 4 other ones in the same kind of homogenous community, and you want to try to get some attention, it would have to be at least 50 to get some attention,
Yeah.
maybe even more, depending on the
Yeah.
type of property it is. But and interestingly, sometimes they will get multiple offers once you do the price drop. People, more than one buyer jumps in, boop, it goes right back up. So I've seen that happen before too.
I'm sure. So
Mhm.
this is what I've been trying to get the audience to appreciate. Higher rates, which I call 7% higher rates, is finally starting to slow the market down. What does that look like? Well, that means 8 listings instead of 3. That means going past offer review date. All of these things are signs that the market is slowing down. It's not a sign of a crash. It's not a sign of a
No.
collapse. It's a sign of normalization.
Yep.
And the beauty of this, which I really want people to understand, is when your buy box or your area goes through this, and most of you will get a chance to experience it sometime in your career. Markets don't go like this forever. Right? Disrespectful offers on properties that have high days on market. You never know when a seller has to sell. You don't
Yep.
want to deal with a seller who, you know, wants to sell. You want to deal with a seller who needs to sell, especially if you're an investor. If you're a homeowner and you want a certain house on a certain block, you don't have many
Yeah.
choices. But investors, we have choices. We don't really care if it's 123 Main Street or 456 Main Street. Right? Either one serves the bill. So slower
Yeah.
housing market, good. 7% rates, good. Track days on market, track inventory, track price drops. This is all heading in the right direction, in my opinion.
So true. And one thing I would say too is, like, you need to watch the market enough to know that which ones are, like you're saying, like, seeing which ones are going to be the most likely candidates for a seller willing to accept and some of that has to do with have your agent talk to the listing agent to learn what the story is and see how much information you can get about what activity's been like, what's the seller's needs, what's their situation, what are they looking for. And sometimes you can get clues in that. Sometimes you get some really good ones. Sometimes I'm surprised what I'm told when asked, things that I would
Yeah.
never say. So, but sometimes they'll tell you, like, look, we got to get it offer right away because of XYZ, or these sellers need that. Those are the magic words, right?
Yeah.
And the
Absolutely.
other thing I'd say is there's some opportunity now where you, as a seller, if you're selling and buying, you may be able to even get a contingent offer accepted, believe it or not.
Oh,
Like,
look at that.
every
Yeah.
once in a while that happens, and every once in a while it works if you've got the right agent that can help create the story around why that would make sense for someone to accept. So even in this market, that can happen. And the other thing I would say is, if you're a buyer, look for the ones that, if a seller hasn't taken the effort to make a house turnkey, people are not biting at that. And
Amen.
even if the number is right, even if it's priced below for that, you can really, and I'm not talking about major fixers that only investors would touch. I'm talking about carpet needs to be switched, or
Yep.
replace the countertops and appliances, easy stuff. If you're the seller, you need to do those things. The other thing I wanted to mention is that this is not, yeah, just like you're saying, not an indication of a crash. I see this seasonality happens every year. I don't expect it's a longer term trend. It may last through the end of 2024, but I do expect in the beginning of 2025 we'll probably see it start to pick up again. And I know we coach our clients in these slower times that, hey, this is your time to shine, buyer. Some
Mhm.
people that don't see it all the time get spooked by that, and it's hard to take the advice because they haven't lived it. But if you see the trends and can see if you can see that pattern of that seasonality and why it always lulls in the summer where we are, or figure out what it is in your market, there's always the high and the low times. If you're able to be forward thinking enough to try to get in there and secure it now, then this could be there could be some real benefits here for buyers that are tired of getting clobbered. I've seen so many times where people don't take that advice, and then the market revs up again, and then we're up again another 10% or so, and then they are battling that on top of everything else. So, and you have to throw out all your contingencies and do crazy things to get offers accepted.
Folks, it's finally happening. After 2 or 3 years of one of the wildest real estate markets I have ever seen, it's finally slowing down. The opportunities for folks who are doing the work daily is coming. Your buy box might be different. Your buy box may already see opportunities. It may not, but it's coming. 7% rates make this happen. If for some reason rates fall to 6 or below, no promises, but do the work. Understand where you can tweak, understand where you can write what I call a disrespectful offer. But it's finally happening. The market's finally slowing down, Beth.
Yay, right. Yeah, the good news. This is what we've been waiting for. So crash, no.
Opportunity?
Normalization,
Yes.
sure, yes. And again, yeah, opportunities to be found. I try to find the positive in everything. And for sellers out there, I would say it's just a matter of just managing your expectations properly. I never guarantee multiple offers and bidding wars ever. But sometimes we can do what we can do to make them happen, but just know that it might take more than a couple days to get your home sold. That's not necessarily a bad thing. That's just
Right.
a returning to a little bit of a normalization. And if you're on the buy side too, if you're selling and buying, then great. It gives you more opportunity to make that transition. So
I love
definitely
it.
some
I
good
love it.
things happening right now.
Beth, if somebody wanted to buy in King County, or better yet, get a referral to a top 1% agent across the country, how would they do that?
Yeah, easiest way to find me is bethtraversogroup.com.
There you go, folks. Give her a follow, say hi, be nice, be kind, and go get your referral. Take care.
Thank you.